Well, I just stayed up all night for the Sony E3 Conference, hoping for a lot of PSVR stuff. There's a lot of cool looking games in the works for PSVR that we're hoping to see more of and get release dates for and just get hyped about, that kind of thing. And the Sony conference was just barren of PSVR content, which is really bad. That was kind of worryingly bad. Compared to last year, they did quite a lot of PSVR stuff and focused quite well on it last year at E3. And expecting something this year. There's some really cool games coming up. There's Pixel Ripped. If you haven't seen Pixel Ripped, is this one where it's like an Inception VR game. You're kind of playing a game in VR. In the VR game, playing a game, like a handheld, like a Game Boy. And you're having to play this game on your Game Boy and not get discovered by your teacher in your classroom as you're playing it. And it has this layers, and it all gets a bit kind of crazy. Anyway, Pixel Ripped looks amazing. Gollum is a game that they've been working on for a long time. This is another Sony in-house game, so you'd think that they'd want to push some of their big titles that they've been working on for PSVR, this system that is really good but hasn't sold a massive amount of units. You'd think they'd want to push it. So there's nothing about Gollum. I know they wanted to focus on these big four games. They called it the pillar games. Spider-Man, Last of Us 2, the new Hideo Kojima game. I forgot what that's called now. And another one. All four of those top games looked amazing, and I'll definitely play them. And one thing that I did think about those games is that now it's time to get a 4K HDR TV. You can really tell that games now, we're at the stage where it's going to look so amazing on a new screen. You can tell it's got that really harsh contrast, that really dynamic contrast. So yeah, it is time to upgrade to a HDR telly. But yeah, so no Golem. No Blood and Truth. Now, Blood and Truth is a really cool looking game. It's kind of like a VR. It's like you're in Snatch or Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, like a Guy Ritchie gangster movie. It's obviously based on the Heist, which is one of the most popular kind of short demos that came out at launch for PSVR, and the team behind that has obviously expanded it into a full game. So, Blood and Truth is what that has become, and that looks fantastic. We've seen quite a lot of it already, but we want a release date. We want to know it's nearly here. We want to see some more about it and just tell the world about it and get people interested in PSVR. And this is the big platform to do it. It's really worrying. It's actually quite worrying that it was so sparse of PSVR content. They sneaked out a couple of little announcements before the conference, but we already kind of knew. I mean, there was Beat Saber, which was already out on PC VR. Everyone knew the game was brilliant and it was a perfect fit for PSVR, so it was kind of a no-brainer that would come. We heard about the Robot Rescue game coming out, another fan favourite from launch, another little demo that was being expanded into a full game, and that looks brilliant. That was came out recently. So we had the PSVR announcements before the conference, but there's a lot of stuff supposedly in the works. So there's a lot of really good looking games that could have been pimped at E3 by Sony, and they just didn't do it. It's devastating as a PSVR fan, really, expecting at least something. We were expecting a Fallout announcement. Bethesda really went all in on PSVR and VR in general, and last year, of course, we got Skyrim VR, which was such a gift. It's a gift that keeps on giving. But yeah, Skyrim in VR was fan-fucking-tastic. And of course, PC VR got Fallout 4 in VR, and it's widely kind of agreed that Fallout 4 is... PSVR couldn't handle it, wouldn't be able to do Fallout 4. It's just too much. data intensive, whatever. But it probably could do Fallout 3 because that's the last gen game, of course. Because you got to remember, of course, with VR, you're running the game twice essentially. Once for each eye to get that stereoscopic 3D effect. So that's why, you say, like, modern games wouldn't be able to run in VR because you need to basically run two copies of the game to play it in VR. So that's why it's just about possible to do that with previous gen games. And they did have to do some cutbacks on Skyrim. Obviously it wasn't the remastered build. It was the last gen build, if not even slightly less graphical fidelity than that. Anyway, I'm rambling. It's 10 to 4 in the morning. I stayed up all night for this shit. Man, and my favourite PSVR YouTube channel, PSVR Without Parole, had planned to live stream, and they got killed by the live stream Nazis. They also live streamed Ubisoft's conference earlier in the day, and because of that, Ubisoft have taken them down. And not only privated that video, got that video taken down, but also stopped PSVR Without Parole's ability to live stream. They've had that channel's live stream capability taken away. They didn't just get the video taken down. That's harsh. They've got to know that everybody's going to be live streaming E3. It's so harsh. Anyway, they'd set up. They went out and bought $1,400 worth of equipment to start live streaming properly, prompted by the wish to live stream this very conference, and they couldn't do it. And then there was fuck all VR games mentioned anyway, so that's some weird kind of karma going on there. That's what a crazy evening. I did a 12-hour shift at work before today, and stayed up. I've stayed up another. God, I don't know how many hours I've been up now. Many hours. No PSVR. At the Sony Conference, what the fuck is... That's harsh. I mean, I know it's not mainstream, but surely you can afford to just sneak in like a little show reel of the various games that you're coming up, just to say, yeah, PSVR is still a thing. We've still got quite a good selection of fairly big budget for the platform games that we're working on, and we want to push, and we want to get this technology in people's houses, and you might want to learn about the games that might make you want to do that. But no. Crazy. I'm sorry about the shit lighting and everything else. I just thought I'd do this video right now after the conference has just finished, whilst my disappointment is fresh. Madness. No Shenmue 3 neither. That's another game that's kind of got me worried as well. Man. Yeah, Shenmue 3 should be further along than we have shown it to have been. That we have seen it being along, words out of mouth. Yeah, we haven't seen anything of Shenmue 3 really, no gameplay footage. And we're like 3 years into the game's development now, and they've just basically said it's delayed for potentially a whole nother year. That's a 4-year game cycle now for a game on a $7 million budget. I think they've got some extra funding since then from a publisher or something, but still, I am going to start getting worried if I don't see a bit more from that game in the next few months. So, I don't know, man. Shit. I've got a hell of a lot of cool PSVR games to be getting on with, but, when you know there's a lot of cool games in the works, and you just want to see that those developers are getting there, and it isn't just pipe dreams, and you've got a release date, and it's nailed on, and you think, right, yes, these games are definitely happening, because, cancellations do happen. Dragonborn on Xbox, that game looked fucking fantastic. It was cancelled. I thought it looked fantastic anyway at the time. It was a few years ago now. Probably wouldn't match up to some of the games we're seeing, for example, at the Sony conference. Don't get me wrong, the big games looked amazing, but they're just prettier versions of games we've already played, really. A bit more cinematic, the cutscenes a bit more involved. You got this context-sensitive animations, context-sensitive actions, but it's really more of the same stuff. You've played The Last of Us before. This is just a prettier, more kind of intricate version of it. Spider-Man looks like, a compilation of various other adventure beat 'em up games you've played. You know, the sandbox parkour / beat 'em up game. We've played these games before. They looked amazing. The graphics are fantastic. But this is, you know, is this what's wrong with the gaming industry? You know, you're finding a lot of invention on PSVR, you know. Just a lot of innovative games. Obviously, the platform and the technology lends itself to innovation and unique gameplay experiences. But beyond that, it's just, yeah, it's a lot of fun things to do in video games, you know, new game experiences. So, you know, well, there was a point, I'm sure there was a point, supposed to be a point at the end of that little mini ramble, but I have lost it. Yeah. Severely disappointing conference from Sony. That's all I gotta say. I was watching it for the VR stuff. There wasn't any, apart from one. There was one. No, I take it back. There was one PSVR game mentioned in the PSVR, in the Sony conference. And that was another game from Squanch Games. The Rick and Morty guys. So yeah, obviously they brought us that other one. Post? No, not Post. Accounting Plus. They brought us Accounting Plus, which, to its credit, is the strangest game I've ever played. Although it's not much of a game, it's more of an experience, definitely in the experience bracket. But they also brought us the Rick and Morty game, which I still haven't played, because that game falls prey to the problem that I've talked about in a recent vid, that is post-release patches. The Rick and Morty game was released, was so severely in need of a patch that I haven't even played it yet. It's sat on the shelf, and it has been sat there for about a month, because they need to patch a quite important thing into that game to make it really playable in the way that it's intended to be played. But when that patch is done, I will be playing it. I'm sure that's a cool game. Anyway, fuck me, I'm tired. Yeah, so Squanch Games has brought Accounting Plus and Rick and Morty virtual reality, and this is the third game already. Third game from the Rick and Morty dudes to VR. And this one, I can't remember the name of it. There was some dude sat in a bath. All looked very random, which is what you'd expect from Rick and Morty. So yeah, there was that. That's it. There was nothing else. No, I can't believe there was no Fallout announcement. Last year, when Fallout 4 came to PC VR, there was what looked like a pretty convincing leak from some in-house paperwork from Game. I think it was Game or GameStop. And it looked like in the pre-orders in the future they had Fallout 4 for PSVR. And at the time it kind of seemed to make sense, because you had Bethesda releasing Skyrim on PSVR, Fallout on PC. And then, you know, next year, we've just seen recently Skyrim's come to PC VR, but no Fallout on PSVR. So that was a kick in the teeth. And you just think, yeah, again, you'd think you'd use E3 as the biggest platform of the year to announce this kind of shit. So you think, because I'm desperate for this stuff. So I'm thinking, you know, are they saving it back? Is it going to be some later announcement? Is it? Why would anyone ever do that? You don't save your announcements and not announce them at E3. That's where all eyes are on you. Surely, I know. Anyway. What was the other one? There's something else I'm missing. Oh, well, I think I already said it, but yeah, I can't believe Resident Evil 2, the Resident Evil 2 remake, wasn't announced for PSVR. I mean, Capcom spent a year developing an engine specifically to convert their games to work in VR. This is what's been reported. Capcom spent a year developing an engine. I'll say it again. Just to put their games in VR. And then it took them 2 months, apparently, to actually convert Resident Evil 7 to work in VR. And it's, to this day, the most impressive game you can play on PSVR. I mean, it's a AAA game. Of course it's going to be. It's got the budget there. It has the polish. It has that visual fidelity that we've all become graphic whores for. You know, a a lot of people are put off by PSVR because they look at most of the games and they look very simplistic. You got PS1, PS2 era graphics in a lot of the games, and they are some shit hot fun games, but they do look quite simple. They have got lower budgets. So when you see Resident Evil 7 running in PSVR on PSVR, oh, it does take your breath away. So yeah, they had this engine developed. So you'd think Capcom would be a shoo-in to bring this Resident Evil 2 remake to VR, but they didn't announce it. It was not in the small print. There was no PSVR logo, nothing. At the start of the trailer, it looks like it was going to be PSVR because he had this kind of trademark shaky cam kind of look to the proceedings. It kind of had that feeling that it was someone's head moving around whilst playing a VR game, but I think it kind of transpired that that was just a mouse. You were looking at things from mouse's perspective, so of course mouse I was always darting the heads around, aren't they? So that might have been that. See, I'm scraping for little bits of possibility here because 2 hours ago the possibilities were endless for what we'd learn about Sony's PSVR plans, and either they haven't got any or they're going to do their own VR show another time. I don't know, maybe that'll happen. I haven't heard anything like that on the horizon. These things are usually announced beforehand, aren't they? I don't know. But anyway, yeah. What else to say? There's several others I'm missing as well. But there's been quite a lot of interesting looking games on the horizon for PSVR. So it's pretty mad not to see any of them there at the conference. Yeah, that's all I can say. Pretty much disappointed, and fingers crossed that those awesome looking games in the works. Gollum, Blood and Truth. I know I'm going to forget some others, some big ones that really. But we were also hoping for a BioShock. I mean, that was on a lot of people's wish list. There was a leak. There was a leak about Super Cold, a possible sequel to Super Hot, but maybe that was fake. All these fake leaks, man. There was a leaked. Oh God, that makes me sad now thinking about it. There was a leaked running order itinerary for the Sony conference the other day, and if that had been true, I'd have been over the fucking moon. It wasn't true. I'm not. Suffice to say. Sorry for this ramshackle video. I just had to get my thoughts out there on the Sony conference. Yeah. Okay, moving on.